Hello and welcome to the Danish Grand Solar Minimum channel. So it's raining and it's hail. This is not rain right now, it's hail. This is stupid. My greenhouse is going down. Fuck, my greenhouse is going down now. I have to get out. Oh my god, I'm going to drown. Oh, this is crazy. This is like a sea in 1 minute. This started from 1 minute ago.
And just like that, it let up, and then it comes back. Guys, I'll go ahead and put Henrik's video's link in the description, but he had quite the storm, and it just came out of nowhere. It let up a little bit, and then it started to pick back up again. Pea-sized hail covered the ground. I'm sharing this video tonight. Hey, I want everybody to go over to Henrik's channel and subscribe as he does. Look at this, the water puddling. This is what's common everywhere. This rain started a minute, 2 minutes, and it's such a torrential downpour that it puddled up really fast. So, but anyway, great footage today and an example of intense, quick outbursts of thunderstorms. This one was riddled with hail, nothing major, but enough to cause a little concern. Henrik, how you doing tonight, bud?
Well, I got some clean and dry socks on, so I'm okay now. Thank you.
So afterwards, would you say that there was more hail, less hail, more rain, or is this just kind of like an isolated storm that happened today?
Well, everything that's come down from beyond today and tomorrow over Denmark is very local, as they say. But when you get the rain or the hail, it's very intense, you know. We did also have a couple of rain showers the other day, you know, and they did not last so long. But when they does, you know, they are very fast, you know, and everything is just floated in a minute, but not like it was today. Today, I don't think I have seen anything in
more hail.
Under 2 minutes, you know, with so much hail that I have not seen before.
Wow. So, I mean, it wasn't by any standards what we've seen in parts of Colorado and Italy, but it was impressive enough. You definitely look like you had a light coating of hail on the ground at one point. It was very visible.
So, oh yes, and in the yard, you know, there was I think a half hour to 1 hour after the shower, there was still a lot of hail in some areas because there was falling so much, you know.
Was there any damage to any of your plants out there, or is this just a heavy downpour with some minor effects?
No, I was prepared because I following the weather, of course, so I knew there was a big chance for thunder and lightning and hail. So I have removed all the plants who cannot dare the hail, of course. So no trouble at all.
See, that's my point right there. And this is why I want folks to subscribe to your channel. And Henrik, I remember you telling me earlier in the day when I woke up this morning, I had a message from you talking about there was thunderstorms heading your way. And so I believe you when you say you just heeded the warnings and took the proper precautions to avoid any damage to any plants that couldn't handle this. So this is what we have to do from here on out, in my opinion. Pay attention to the weather, especially if you grow. There are things you can do to prepare for stuff like this. And in this case for you, you didn't have to worry about any damage because you knew it was coming and you took proper precautions. So hands up for you. Good
Yeah,
job
and
with
at the
that.
same time, you can always collect the rainwater. I have so many buckets everywhere, not only because I have holes in my greenhouse, I also have outside because, I love to feed my plants with rainwater.
And that just depends on, I know some areas here in the United States, they ban the collection of rainwater. So unfortunately, fortunately for you, you live in an area where that's apparently not frowned upon, but here it is. People get fined for that, which is unreal.
What?
Yeah.
For collecting rainwater?
Yes, sir.
But it's coming down from, nobody owns the weather.
Well,
That's crazy.
they call it because of the mosquito problem that could happen if you did that, and all the larvae from that. But I've seen Mari, when, we're not supposed to, but she has these little tablets that she throws in these barrels that collect the rainwater, and it's supposed to kill any mosquito larvae or keep all insect life to a minimum. So there are things you can do to keep it safe, but again, this is just one of those regulations where our government doesn't want us to be self-sufficient. They want us to be reliable on their utilities and their power plants, instead of us trying to find ways to get along with ourselves. And it's brilliant. If you have a garden, collecting rainwater is a great way to water your garden, save your own water from having to pay it from the city. But again, it's all about the government getting their hands in the piggy bank. So,
yeah, but I also have to say that mostly I collect rainwater to my plants inside, so I have rainwater all winter inside to my indoor plants.
Nice. All right. Well, again, I'll leave the link in the description. Everybody go out to Henrik's channel, and let's go ahead and get the show started a little bit here now. I have a few articles to go over, but first, space weather report. And I'll go ahead and refresh that because this is kind of old. Our solar wind speeds are going up. At last check, they were at 375, have risen to 408.8 kilometers per second with a density of 9.7. We are expecting an uptick in solar wind today from a coronal hole that was Earth-facing a few days ago. The sun is blank, no sunspots once again, 8 days in a row. We are now sitting at 129 days without sunspots in 2018. Our KP indices have also picked up a little bit, and that's mainly because of the accelerated particles that are now affecting Earth's magnetic field. We're looking at a KP index of 2 right now with a 24-hour max of 3. And taking a look at this latest SDO image here, this coronal hole that we watched starting to form, this is rather large. Now, what we look for when it comes to serious geomagnetic storms, or possibilities for some, is the width of the hole, not the length so much. However, this is a pretty good size one, and we are now expecting to see some solar wind from this on August 16th through the 17th. Too early to tell yet if we're going to see any geomagnetic activity from this. Go ahead and take a look at the SDO in motion, and there is the Earth-facing coronal hole moving away now, as the new one facing Earth here soon will be here between the 15th and the 16th of August. And it does appear, since last night, it does appear to continue to grow. Looking onto the eastern limb to see if we have any activity out there in the far, far edge. And right now we do not see anything. So we will continue to be spotless for the near future unless something just out of the blue pops up out of nowhere, which we've seen that is possible with our star. Take a look at TSI. I've been showing you just the smaller part of the graph, but just to give you an idea here of what kind of TSI we've seen, an increase and decrease. And we've been kind of erratic most of the winter into the spring, and really in July where we got a little bit higher. Now, when I say higher, I'm talking about 1360.89. That's our peak. Right now, our current value, we are sitting at a 1360.641, which was for August 3rd. And if you look here, since the end of July until currently, TSI has kind of weakened quite a bit. In fact, since we've had that peak of 1360.83, we have seen a huge drop in TSI, and it's kind of staying steady in that department right now in the lower values of the 0.6. So still nothing to really write home about, but just wanted to show you the observation and how much TSI, how little it really does affect, and how slow it moves up and down. So wanted to report that real quick. And on one of the first articles I wanted to share with everybody real quick is Well, here we are in Melbourne, and another headline that talks about record rainfall in almost 2 months falls overnight. We were talking about this the other day where a month's worth of rain fell in 3 hours. Here we are. Wild weather has lashed Melbourne this afternoon with hail and heavy rain falling across the city. Hail pelted suburbs, including Yarraville, Kingsville, Footscray, and Montrose this afternoon, as temperatures plummeted to just 7 degrees Celsius in the city. It was a dramatic drop from spring-like conditions yesterday when temperatures were reaching 20 degrees Celsius. Take a look at some of the images here. Henrik, this looks very familiar.
Yeah, and did I hear you say Celsius?
They did, yeah, Celsius.
Okay.
I didn't realize this, but we were the only ones here in the world that Fahrenheit, and I thought that was just us and a few other countries. So I feel like, if it says Celsius, I'm going to read it as Celsius. Obviously, we're the minority on that. So
yeah, and you don't use the meter measuring, I think.
You were breaking up on that. I couldn't hear you.
I say you don't use the meter. In Europe and other places, we have centimeters and meters. You have inch and foot and inches. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder, is that just the lazy way to do it, like the inch and the foot? When you have to sit here and think about 16 millimeters, it's like, oh, how much is that? So it's kind of a brain teaser for people who aren't used to hearing it in millimeters and inch or kilometers instead of miles per hour. So, but anyway. Cold front moved through Melbourne and delivered up to 10 millimeters of rain. Almost 2 months ago, we saw 16 millimeters. Hail, thunderstorm, and rain is likely this afternoon. Heavy snow began falling in Victoria's alpine resorts with 20 centimeters expected over the weekend. So lots of everything going on here in Australia. We already know where Henrik was. He had a thunderstorm today with a heavy downpour and hail.
Yeah, and more is coming tomorrow, where we're gonna have 22 millimeters of rain and thunder and hail.
Are you guys looking to cool off after this weather passes through, or is this just?
You can say that in a bit. Tomorrow it will be between 59 Fahrenheit and 68 Fahrenheit, and then it will stay there for a few days and then go a little bit up, and then it would go down and a little up again, but not more than in the 70s.
That's
in
good.
The low 70s.
And that's kind of the pattern that we're experiencing here in New York, upstate New York. We have a couple more days in the mid 80s, and then we will see a drop in our temperatures around the 70s or even in the mid 70s for a while. So the temperature outlook is starting to break a little bit here, which I know it's been pretty hot here for us in the Northeast. I'm ready for some more cooler temperatures in the 70s. Not too cool. It's still summer. I want to have some warm weather. But insurance company USAA receives 13,000 claims from its recent hailstorm. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Insurance says it has received more than 13,000 claims from Monday's recent hailstorm and is expecting more. Colorado Springs-based insurance company also opened 3 response centers around the city to help deal with the volume of claims. And they show here there's one at Home Depot in Colorado Springs on Southgate. Phil Long's Value Car, that's on Motorway in Colorado Springs, and Fort Carson Motor Pool, building 1982 on Magrath Avenue. All these locations will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 7 days a week. Geico has also a temporary location on Fort Carson at the main exchange. For Fort Carson soldiers who experience hail damage, click here for more information about how to file a claim with the Army Center of Personal Claims Support. We reported earlier when the storm happened that we were looking at 400 plus claims. To see the number jump to 13,000, it'll probably continue to rise. I used to work in the insurance field, and the company I worked for, we would assess damage from hailstorms. And you have a year from the date of when the storm hit to file a claim with your homeowner's insurance. I know for homeowners, I don't know about car insurance, but homeowners, you have a year from the date of the storm. So to say they have 13,000 claims right now, that's a lot. That number is going to continue to grow. More and more people, And the fact that they're opening up 3 different response centers to help with the volume of claims that are being filed right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see this number jump well beyond 100,000 or higher. Just from the video footage that I've seen, there's no way if you lived in this area during that storm on Monday, you have severe damage on your vehicle and your roof. And I'll tell you another tip real quick about roofs. You could void your shingle warranty if you do not have it inspected after a hailstorm, and that's the truth. And most of the time, if there's hail damage, the contractor that's doing the inspection will tell you that you could get a new roof, probably just the cost of your deductible, whether it's $500, whether it's $1,000. Think about this. If you spend $500 to $1,000 on a deductible to get your roof replaced, that roof could be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000, a well worth investment from keeping water damage out of your home and creating even more damage within: mold, drywall replacement, carpet replacement, even rotted wood replacement. So it's very important that you guys, if you do have homeowners, follow up with this, get the work done to your home, because it could void out other manufacturer warranties to siding or even other types of shingles as well. So sorry about the insurance rant, but I think it's important that people know they do have time to report this. So if it's frustrating and you can't get through to your insurance right now, keep trying, and you do have a year from the date of the storm to report that. Henrik, you okay there? Sound like you might have fell over.
No, I just had a little fight with a bee.
Oh, good Lord. Are you okay? So I'm curious, because I don't like bees myself, but now that I know how important they are, I don't swat at them as much. I try to just leave them alone. Are you more of the type of swatter, or you just try to shoo them out the door?
No, I try to get them out of the window, even if I have been stunned many times. So I don't see them as something I have to kill. I only kill 2 kinds of animals, and that is mosquito and flies.
Well, there you go. I think we'll all agree with that one. I knew a guy that could grab a bumblebee by its wing in mid-flight and throw it out a window.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind of creepy, and he thought it was funny, because I'm kind of weirded out with those bigger bees, and he thought it was funny to throw it at me one time because the guy could do it. I mean, he caught it by the wing and would throw the damn carpenter bee at me, and it would just give me the heebie-jeebies hearing it buzzing on my neck and everything. But anyway.
Well, if this is one of your friends, I don't want to know about your enemies.
Right. Well, you always have that one wise ass friend. He was that wise ass friend. So, Tropical Storm Yagi heading for eastern China. Landfall is expected tomorrow, August 12th. This is the 14th named storm of the 2018 Pacific typhoon season. Is heading towards eastern China and expected to make landfall August 12th, 2018, with maximum sustained winds near 46 miles per hour. This storm is located about 100 miles southeast of Okinawa, Japan. Like we said, its maximum sustained winds were around 40 miles per hour. It does have the animated multispectral imagery depicts a partially exposed low-level circulation center with deep convection flaring over the western semicircle due to moderate easterly vertical wind shear. Yagi is expected to continue tracking west-northwest to northwest over the next 30 hours. Slight intensification is possible over the next 24 hours. And again, naming a landfall around 1500 UTC on August 12th for the east coast of China. And here is a satellite image. Boy, the Pacific has had no issues whatsoever this year on tropical storms, as we've seen them flare up here near the Baja area of California. Hector whizzed by Hawaii, and we've reported on several flooding typhoons that have happened in Japan, China, and other areas in that region as well. I'll leave the link in the description. Thanks again to the watchers for keeping us informed on just about every time we hear a storm developing or happening anywhere in the world. The watchers have been pretty much on top of it. And this just kind of confirms what I've been yada about here the last few weeks. August 10th, Climate Depot puts out a little article here. It says it's warmer in the Roman period and it was warmer in the Roman and medieval times. Previous estimates of historical temperature during the Roman era and the Middle Ages were too low. Says here, a study suggests that Britain of 2,000 years ago experienced a lengthy period of hotter summers than today. German researchers used data from tree rings, a key indicator of past climate, to claim the world has been on a long-term cooling trend for 2 millennia until the global warming of the 20th century. This cooling was punctuated by a couple of warm spells. These are the medieval warm period, which is well known, but also a period during where toga-wearing Roman times when the temperatures were approximately 1 degree Celsius warmer than now. They say that a very warm period during the 21st to 50 AD have been underestimated by climate scientists. And they said that they have found previous estimates of historical temperatures during the Roman era and Middle Ages were too low. So the reason why I wanted to mention this was we talk about how our CO2 levels are at a record high for now, I guess, in man-made measurements. We're at 410 parts per million. And 1,000 years ago, we were sitting somewhere around 280 parts per million. And yet the medieval and the Roman warming times were warmer. So, and I guess what I'm trying to say is what SUV, whose CO2 exposing company was blasting our atmosphere with all these greenhouse gases that were trapping all the heat. Oh, that's right. There wasn't any.
Flintstone?
Fred and Barney. It was all their fault. So just wanted to point this out real quick. It should be talked about. It should be pounded in some of these people's brains, especially the AGW, to talk about CO2 as the cause of global temperatures warming, that man has caused all this. Oh, while we're on this, I hate to do this, but I got to ask you.
Please don't.
Okay, so I'll just bring it up. Listen, I'm a little confused out there, and I can't see the chat, and I can only imagine what's going to happen when I mention this. But Ben Davidson put out a climate change video, and I guess the question I have, was he being sarcastic? Should I have watched the whole thing, or is he being serious? And why, if he is being serious? What made him decide all of a sudden that things are warming when he's been kind of on the, he's never been like a global cooling or global warming guy, but he understands what's getting ready to happen with the sun. He even replied to you how rough things were going to be in the next decade. But so it's confusing to me. I'm not sure. Did I miss something, or did you watch the whole thing? Did you interpret it differently than I did, or is he really just flipping his whole thing right now?
Well, I saw the whole thing and also the following up today. And as I was seeing and heard it, it was not something he meant. You know, if you hear all the context in the things he says, I don't believe that he thinks that it's getting warmer. It's just what people say. And, you know, and everybody knows that we have been through a warming period, but that is over now, you know. So, of course, it has been warmer, but that's all natural. So I don't think that he is turning on anything for real.
I think
that's just how I see and hear things.
Well, and
he also he commented today on the other video about the video yesterday about that half the people did not understand him.
Well, and that's why I asked you, because I know Ben. If you don't know Ben very well, sometimes he can be a little difficult to follow, and as some of us who are enthusiasts about the grand solar minimum and what we believe is coming, I think it's easy to say, "Oh my God, did you hear what Ben just said?" and he's a traitor, and let's go after him and attack him and blah, 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 and this and that. Ben's always been a guy of numbers. I can't say that I quite understand everything that he does, but that's why I wanted to ask you, because I've also heard other people feedback with that as well, that I don't think he really means that we're warming, but there are others that will beg to differ with you on that. And I think sometimes we can get a little bit on the, jumping the gun about something. So I'm going to have to watch the other video if he has a second part. I'm going to watch that and try to.
Yeah, it's out today.
Okay. It'll make a little more sense about it. Because, like I said, I heard about it last night and I was like, well, that's bizarre. Like, just to see somebody all of a sudden, like I just never saw Ben as a guy that just would come out and agree so much with the IPCC. And I know that alone probably infuriates a lot of folks out there in the GSM community. So, I don't believe the math is correct, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to go after Ben and discredit him because he believes one thing that I don't. It's a difference of opinion, and I just wanted to bring it up to kind of give everybody a perspective to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and maybe rewatch the video a second time to fully digest what he's trying to say. And, if it still comes out the way you think, then I guess that's your right to have that opinion. So anyway, I'll leave. Here's a quick little one here. I thought it was kind of funny. Obama would ban a light bulb, I guess. This goes back to right. This goes back to what I was talking about with Australia and how their one of their political leaders was talking about people shouldn't live in fear of turning on a light because of how much certain things cost. Well, here President Obama, former President Barack Obama, I call him Barry, expanded the class of bulbs covered by the 2007 light bulb ban to include bug lights, three-way bulbs, rough service lamps, and some decorative bulbs, such as globe-shaped bulbs. Obama's decision came in January 2017 and roped in bulbs that had previously been exempt from the ban. Now, bug lights. Henrik, you have those, don't you?
Yes.
Three-way bulbs. I don't think I have any of those. I have a rough service lamp, a couple of them. But again, I guess the idea behind this, Henrik, was that these take up too much of our energy and that causes warming. Is that why we had a ban on light bulbs? Certainly.
I don't think so. I have never heard anything so stupid. I know that they banned ones because there was a mercury, and of course that's not healthy.
Right.
I only use what we in Denmark call saving bulbs because they are cheap, and they produce a lot more light than the old bulb did, and they cost a lot less.
Well, I didn't hear about this light bulb ban, and I think it's ridiculous. And it actually came out, Department of Energy expanded on this. Apparently, this was started in 2007, so I guess we got old W to blame for this one. And that's surprising. Him being from the South, I don't think you could live in Texas without a bug light. So, but anyway, I just want to pass that along. Thank God it says report that this ban bulb altogether will be history soon. So that's encouraging. Again, another policy of the previous administration and beyond that's being unraveled because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't go with the science that the real science anyway that's causing what's happening right now. And these are old policies where people really had major hard-ons for man-made global warming. This was the peak of it. This was when we started hearing about man-made global warming and the fear porn drum was starting up. Less fire today than centuries ago. Scientist studies counterclaim that wildfires due to climate change. I wanted to highlight this just because I want people to read this. I'm not going to get into it. I've had a lot of people send me this link, and I just think it's important that what I mean, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it right now word for word, but this just points out some of the fear, the hype. They ABC News warned in 2014 that here in America, more wildfires, intense burns have arrived courtesy of climate change. CBS This Morning featured climate fear promoter Michiro Kaku, predicting 100-year droughts, 100-year forest fires, and claiming that something is very dangerously happening with the weather. Al Gore also thinks he knows all about wildfires. All over the West, we're seeing these fires get much, much worse, Gore said in 2017, adding, the underlying cause is the heat. I don't know.
Well, I know that we are getting more and more people, and we are getting everywhere, and we are cutting down everything, and people are leaving a footprint everywhere. So of course there will be wildfires everywhere, because as I have said before, most of the time it's the human to blame when there's a fire.
That's what I mean. Like these wildfires, scary enough, they're most of them are caused by people who don't put out fires correctly. You do have those freak lightning storms that will spark a forest fire. I get that, but
yeah, but also people who are leaving things. You know, I made a video not so long ago because we had a fire not so long from where I live. You know, because somebody had thrown out a cigarette from a car. You know, and that was enough. And beside that, there was lying and lighter. You know, and some cans. You know, and all that reflects the sun and can also start a fire.
Right. And that's my point. Is that yes, there are climate variables that start fires. These brush fires that turn into burning thousands and thousands upon acres. But the majority of these, unfortunately, are caused. This is one thing I'll say that man is causing, and that's some of these fires.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wrote somewhere that a Danish guy was to blame for a lot of fires in California. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And I got
there's a lot of freaks who you know turned on by seeing the fire, and that is the worst case scenario in my head. You know.
I got California in here a couple times tonight. This gentleman here, this California state treasurer pledges more debt to fight climate crisis. $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking real money. It says here, we know that our wildfires are becoming faster. They're becoming more intense, said California Treasurer John Chang, who signed the Green Bond Pledge on Tuesday. We need to make sure we come up with the proper financing to build infrastructure so that Californians can protect themselves. Your money matters. Remember to give generously so California politicians can finance large climate projects on your behalf, assuming that you have any spare cash after paying your green electricity bill. And, you know, we've talked about California being the ones who are now mandating homeowners. It says here, blame for many, climate change. But homeowners are now forced to, if they build a new house, they have to install solar panels. They're forcing the green energy on Californians right now because they've really pushed it out there. They really think man is causing man-made warming. And so they're the ones going green over here. We just talked about 3 nights ago how expensive green energy really is, making the regular energy, the electricity, the gas, all that's becoming much higher now. And by 2045, it's going to be out of this world. People aren't going to be able to afford to live or eat. You'll have to go back to the old days of the horse and buggies and campfires and do it that way, live off the grid. 2045, if we actually have to pay the prices that are dictated in the graph that I showed the other night, we're in some serious trouble. Hopefully we have a serious raise coming our way by then as well. Inflation. It's beyond inflation. So again, Henrik, we have another politician who thinks throwing more money at a fake claim is going to solve the problem. And this just shows me, it shows me how disconnected these politicians really are.
Unfortunately, we have some of them in Denmark too, but right now I'm actually sitting and writing in a Danish paper that the Danish People's Party Vice President Søren Espersen understands the party's climate report when he says the climate change is a matter of faith. the question of whatever climate change is man-made or not is a matter of faith and belong to the people's choice. So someone is turning in the Danish government. That's nice to see.
Yeah, I showed a couple articles yesterday where, you know, PBS wasn't so bold to say we're cooling, but if you read the underlying statements that they were making in these articles, it sounds like they're saying we're cooling. And there was a meteorologist from Texas who also is following the ENSO and the solar cycles and everything that he talked about with the correlation with solar cycles and what happened the last time we were in a deep minimum. People are starting to connect the dots. So that is good to see. But you still have guys like this cat here in California who are just so disconnected. They are following trends is what they're doing. They have no idea. He's not doing the real research on this topic. He's just following a popularity wave. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to say it, but I don't think they read a lot. You know, they only read what their spin doctors are come and present to them to say, read this, and this is what you got to memorize.
Yep. No, I agree completely. I've seen it so many times, and so many politicians who I used to be fond of have disappointed me when I hear them talk about certain topics that I actually know about. And it's very obvious that some of these people have no idea what's going on. This last link, I am going to read this one. This was the summarized version of the actual where they got it from. But thanks to Henrik, he threw this at me. This was posted 5 months ago, but this is a very good summary of what's to expect because they're basing a lot of this on the Maunder minimum. The conditions that we have right now that we're facing are looking a lot like a Maunder minimum type situation when we go through our next grand solar minimum. So here we have, it says NASA has reconstructed a climate map over the last grand solar minimum, which was called the Maunder minimum. Here's what it looks like. And it says, let's go west to east. Alaska will be much warmer, especially in the southern and eastern parts of the state, which right now, Henrik, I do believe we're experiencing that. USA and Canada, the central parts of Canada will be much colder than normal. The western Canadian provinces will also be colder, but not as much as the central part. The central and eastern parts of the U.S. will be much colder than normal. And then we are talking about states such as an eastern part central. And eastern, I'm assuming we're talking about the Northeast, like always. But they're including Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Washington, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, North and South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. So basically, the most populated areas in the United States will get affected the most during this grand solar minimum, which will be called the Eddy minimum. Over to Africa, the mountain areas in Morocco and Algeria will be the most affected, and we could already see that from this year. Morocco has been hammered by snow and low temperatures, and there will be snow in Morocco in the end of the March as well. And it says here, let's look at Europe, which I do remember there was a lot of snow in Morocco this past winter. The countries that will most be affected in North Central European countries are Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Northern France, Poland, Czech Republic. And then it states Greenland, Iceland, and the North Pole. These areas will be like Alaska, much warmer than average. But in terms of Greenland, this will only affect the southern parts. And the central and northern parts will be slightly colder than normal. So what I'm taking from that right there is that we are going to see temperatures above average that we normally see in the Arctic and Iceland. But when you see a few degrees warmer, we already know how cold it is there. So I don't look at this as a cop-out for the warming that we saw in the Arctic, the sudden atmospheric warming that we saw last year. But I find it great that there is a correlation of some of the areas that we saw slightly above average temperatures in. And this guy here is telling us this is normal. But you'll have people like Fraud Beckwith who will tell you that the glaciers are melting all over North Pole and we will be all ice. We'll be without ice caps here very soon, according to Fraud. So when it comes to the rest of the world, we look at Russia. Parts of Russia will be most affected, are all of Siberia. but especially the northern regions. Besides that, the central parts of Russia will be below normal, but not a severe Siberia. When it comes to the rest of Asia, it will be colder than normal in most parts, such as eastern China, Mongolia, and northern Japan. India, Thailand, and Saudi Arabia will also get colder than normal, which we've already kind of seen that. We've seen the last 2 winters now snow in Saudi Arabia, the last 2 winters. So it says, there you have it. This is what happened 400 years ago during the modern minimum, and it's quite likely that we will get something similar to this time. We have already seen these changes this year. It will likely accelerate during the next year of 2019, which I agree with there. The most severe problem with we will get during the grand solar minimum will not be the cold weather, but crop losses. Some areas will become non-arable, and others will get severe crop losses. And if you click down here at the link at the bottom, this is showing where they got their source of information. It talks about the modern minimum. It talks about Tambora and what happens when these volcanoes go off and their ash plumes go high enough to affect weather. Not just 10, 15, 20,000 feet, but we're talking 30, 40, 50,000 feet. Especially when you get in the 45 and up, that's when you got to start to observe and see what kind of impact it will make on the climate in that area and other places. But Henrik, I really appreciate you bringing this article to us, and I know you probably had some thoughts, so I'll go ahead and give you the platform here and kind of speak about what you think about this guy's report on when, where, and how.
Well, first of all, I'm a bit surprised that Denmark is not included. Because I think we are lying a very strange place, you know. As you can see this summer, we went straight from winter to summer because there was no spring. So, and now we have the heat for 2 months. And well, I just think that people should look at this, because if they are living in some of these areas, you have the time to prepare. Not like scary prepare, but it's always nice to be prepared. And then, well, I don't know how to say it, but I have to say it anyway. You know, this is what it looks like 400 years ago. And I know I have said it before, but I will say it anyhow. No cycle will be like the other cycle. There are so many things, right, so many cycles we don't know about. So this will not be like it's is saying in this paper. Not at all. It's likely to be somewhere right some places, but it will be off some places too, I think. So, but this is just how it looks like, you know, 400 years ago. And actually, I did have a note I did not would use, but now will use it anyhow, because I was just reading. I did not read through because I don't have time, but I know that a study of the Danish climate change shows from tree rings grow that we have some cycles in Denmark every 260 years where we get colder or more humidity in the weather. And especially in the Viking era, we experienced a lot of relatively good weather with warm periods. And well, I actually would have told this as a story when we were finished, because I say this now because it was because a guy was writing to me on the email, because last time I said it was hotter when the Vikings were here, and he was writing to me that how the fuck did I know that I was not around when the Vikings were here? Right. You know, you half-breed idiot Vikings. And then I just thought, well, I have to look up. Maybe I am an idiot, you know, but I'm sorry to say I'm not a half-breed idiot. Well, maybe I am. I don't know.
We all are half-breeds, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere. But I just think it was a very good article, also because there is not. I've been looking so many places for exactly a paper like this, you know.
Well, and I think a lot of folks are. This is the burning question, you know. Where is it going to affect? How is it going to affect? And at least this article kind of gives a foundation, an idea. It's a ballpark, and it's like, you know, I talked to Starman a few weeks ago, and he was like, look, you know, you have to give so much credit to the historical data, but there are things that are happening now that didn't happen then that you have to watch as well that factor into how intense that this grand solar minimum will be. And, you know, just looking at things like this, like today, El Nino, the Nino index dropped again to below temperatures where we need to be at for El Nino. And the interesting part about this is that when we hit the peak here just a couple of days ago at 0.31, I wondered out loud if this was going to drop again below the 0.2. And it appears as if this pattern is going to continue. So how long does this continue? Does it drop even farther? Things like this we have to watch. The North Atlantic SST has gone up just a little bit more. So it's been a while, but we are above negative 0.5 on that temperature reading. But how much longer will that continue to incline? Will it decrease again? So this article does a really good job of painting a base picture. And then to try to understand or even imagine how serious this grand solar minimum could be, we use factors like the SSTs and the anomaly maps that are available to us to help monitor the situation. And just like today with Henrik, you know, being on the alert level by taking precautions before storms, getting plants out of harm's way. It's the kind of work that we're going to have to get used to. Now, I don't know what's going to happen if we have an EMP and our grid's down and we have no way to look at the radar or no way to get an email about the weather. I guess it's back to the old school way of, you know, when you were growing up, your grandparents would tell you when the leaves turn the other way, that means the storm's coming. It's going to be more of that if we ever have to face an EMP type situation where we lose a power grid from an EMP or a solar flare. So I know some are set up better than others when it comes to situations like that. And but I was surprised not to see New York in that lineup, but I think it's already just kind of assumed that the Northeast is going to get their cold. They get cold everywhere. And last year, I saw an increase of cold weather and snow from the first winter that I experienced in Buffalo. So to see that where the Northeast area is going to be expecting a lot more blizzards, that doesn't surprise me, as myself and Henrik, Starman, and others that are that conversate about this, Rob as well. You know, winters are going to get a little bit more brutal. They're going to get a little bit longer. We saw it this year. We had winter last through April easily. We were talking about record cold and snow and ice all the way through the middle of April. Mari and I were going over some old videos that we did, and we couldn't believe that we were talking about snow and ice still at that time of the year. So good stuff there. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add on that before I wrap up? Because I'm going to go over the radar situation and really just let you kind of finish off the show for us tonight.
No, that's okay. I sit and listen to you and enjoy my coffee.
Very nice. Hopefully the time worked out a little bit better for you. I hate keeping you up all night of the hours. Maybe tonight you actually get normal sleep instead of going to bed when the sun comes up this time.
No problem. Do not ever think about me.
Well, Henrik, you are too kind. Mari, I know you've been modding the chat. How's everybody behaving today? Anything to report?
We never behave in the chat. I was warning people. I was sort of scared about you asking me to talk because I had some major hiccups. And I'm like, how am I going to talk? But a couple sugar wafers, boom, gone. So, but Rob, we were sharing what kind of fireplaces and wood burning methods for heat sources in the chat. So I learned that Rob likes using pellet stoves, and he gets his pellets delivered by the ton. And I was just saying how we have a wood burning fireplace that I was stoked that we found out that's working. So other than that, in the chat, you know, it's pretty mellow, peaceful,
pretty quiet, like the
loving,
grand solar minimum.
Pretty quiet, like the sun.
Like the sun.
Yes.
Sun. Well, that's good to know. And And I was just thinking to myself when Mario was talking about the chat. You know, we got me and Henrik over here talking about weather, talking about previous situations, historical data, and then you got the chat busy talking about what's best to use to burn, keep people warm, what to cook with, blah blah blah. I love that this group of people that participate are, you know, it's multi-production, listening and talking and sharing ideas. And it's just a good place, I think, for all of us in the community to meet up and just talk about how to prepare and how to adapt and what to do in the coming years. And, you know, eventually Mario and I will get back to normal production on weather videos and stuff like that. And let's be honest, right now, this summer, we've had a lot of flooding. We know that, a lot of hail, but we haven't
Don't say that. Don't. Now it's beginning to raining and hail here.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Hey, your garden needed it. Okay, so
yes.
Maybe not the hail so much, but
no.
You know, so far, like we've talked about before, if there's not really a lot to talk about, I mean, I'm not going to make a 3-minute video about a thunderstorm that happened in Dying Box, Iowa. You know, we want to cover things that are relevant to the grand solar minimum. And I think a lot of things get put under the microscope when they shouldn't be. So I'm sure here we get closer to September, we're going to start seeing some more action, probably start seeing some tropical storms form. How many make landfall is still unknown. Temperatures in the waters right now are still a little lagging below where some folks would like to see them for storm development. So we'll keep our eyes on that. That being said, I think we're going to wrap it up for the night. Henrik, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure as always.
You are so welcome. And before we get out, I send a shout out to my local store in my little town because, you know, my smartphone was breaking down the other day. It was overheated, so every time I could only use it for 2 minutes, and then it would cut down, shut off, you know. And then I was down in the shop with the guys, you know. There's not really so many shops back in Denmark anymore with these people, you know, sitting in their small shops, you know, and fixing people's old mobiles, smartphones, dildos, radios, and TVs, and probably things I don't want to talk about. You know, so I'm just coming in, you know, and I'm not even saying a word to the guy. You know, he's just looking up at me, and you know, you need a new battery for your phone. And I just look and I don't know. So I don't know what's wrong. It's overheated. You need a battery. And that was the only thing he could say. And, you know, he was right. So
wow.
for not so many bucks, you know, I got a new battery and my phone is so good again.
Well, that tells you right there that he was dealing with influx of people who needed new batteries, and you thought the heat had played a part. And possibly you were right about that because he knew what you were there for, because he'd probably seen so many other customers in the last several days that had the same issue that you were having. So that just tells you right there that a lot of people's electronics were being messed with in the last few days.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems, you know, because again, I know we have talked about it so many times, but we have so much electronic, you know, and it's very, very bad in heat, and it's very, very bad in cold. So we have a problem, you know, no matter what.
True. Deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in once again to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Please like and share. We will be back Monday with our next show, and I think we'll be back on track. Henrik will definitely be with us on Saturday next week, possibly again during the middle at some point. I'll let you all know. But thanks again, Henrik, for joining us, and we will talk soon, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.